Next question you have is, how do you put this information onto this confusing looking trip sheet? The first thing you're going to do is fill out the top. So I'll put my name, Andy Rupert, the train number, Q265. Now, the train number and the trip ID number are going to be given to you by dispatch. They will either be texted to you or emailed to you. So use the information that they send you. Trip ID number may be 10 numbers long. Something like that. So that's 8 plus 3, 11 numbers. So you fill out that information. Now you come to this side and fill out the date. So today's date is 5/2/22. What time were you called? Let's say they call you at 8 o'clock at night. So you're going to put 8 p.m. The need time, the time they want you to be there, is 8:45 p.m. So this is when they called you. This is when the crew needs to be picked up. Okay? So the date, what time they called you, that's dispatch calls you, the time you need to pick up the crew. That's when they're expecting you to arrive. Now we go back to our text. This first text that we sent needs to be transferred to the first line of the trip sheet. On the trip sheet, it's in a different order. So you're going to put where you left from, usually your home, but you put the city, Fargo. What time did you leave? You left at 8:15. And then how many miles? 175. 123. And that's all you need to do for the first line, because there's nothing to add up. Now, the second line is going to reflect your text over here. So you text that you arrived at Moorhead. So now you're going to transfer that over here onto the trip sheet. So we'll put Moorhead, 8:45. And then how many miles? 175, 133. Now, is there anything we can add up here? Well, while you're driving, you don't add up how many minutes, because you don't get paid for minutes while you're driving. You get paid for driving miles. So 33 minus 23 is 10 miles. That's all you have to do there. Now, here's your third text. We're going to transfer this information to where you left Moorhead. So let's go back to the trip sheet. Here we have Moorhead again. You haven't left. What time did you leave? Well, 9 o'clock. So apparently it took 15 minutes for the crew to get themselves ready. And you didn't go anywhere, so the miles don't change. So you wouldn't add any miles because you didn't drive, but you will add minutes here because you sat for 15 minutes waiting. So there's the 15 minutes that you get paid for waiting. Once you have the crew in your car, you're going to drive them to their drop-off location. So in this case, it's Enderlin. So let's transfer that information to the next line of the trip sheet. So you drove to Enderlin, and it took you an hour, so we're going to put 10 o'clock. And over here, how many miles? 175, 193. So do you get paid for waiting while you're driving? No. Do you get paid for miles while you're driving? Yes. So that's 60 miles. Now, when you got to the drop-off point, the crew unloaded their bags and got out. And make sure at the bottom of the page that you get them to sign their name. So we'll put a fake name, Curly Neal. And this is where the crew member needs to sign, not both of them, just one of them. And then they'll put their ID number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever that is. So that's what happens at the bottom of the page. Now we need to indicate on here what happened. So in Enderlin, they took 5 minutes to unload. So how much time did you wait for them? 5 minutes. How many miles did you drive while you're sitting there? None. So you put in 175, 193, and there's no miles because you weren't driving. Now, after you leave, you're going to put the information that you texted for when you got home. So let's transfer that information over to the trip sheet. The last line is here on the arrive line. You arrived in Fargo at your house at 11:05 p.m. So it took you an hour. And then how many miles did you have when you arrived? 175,253. And this is a distance of 60 miles. So when you wait for the crew, in this instance, there were 2 times. You waited when you were picking them up, 15 minutes. You waited 5 minutes when you were dropping them off. And then while you were driving, you covered 10 miles to get to the pickup location. You drove 60 miles to the drop-off location, and you drove 60 miles going home. Now, this is the time that you add up these numbers. So here we have 15 plus 5. We'll put it in the total down here, 20 minutes of waiting time. On this side, we have 10 miles, 60 miles, and 60. So that's 130 miles. So at the end of the day, you had a small trip. You covered 130 miles, and you waited 20 minutes during this short trip.